Hello friends, I am back today with another Bookmas video, and today I'm going to be sharing with you everything that I watched this year. Last year I think I kind of separated into like the first half of the year and the second half. And this year, basically I just never got around to filming it ever, so it's a whole long list of stuff. I have it like yeah. So, let me get back to the top. This is TV and movies, so, like, that makes it a little bit better because some of them were TV shows that took me, like, a while to watch. So, we're gonna say that anyway. So the first thing I watched was WandaVision on Disney+. This one took me a little bit to get into, I'm not gonna lie. It was probably like episode 3 or 4 before I finally started like understanding what was going on and actually started really enjoying myself. Next was Godzilla, King of Monsters on HBO Max. I watched this one because Godzilla vs. Kong was coming out, and I knew I had already seen Kong Skull Island and really liked it, so I wanted to watch the Godzilla, but like, it was alright. I see why I never watched this when it came out. I don't know. It just wasn't really, it didn't really mesh with me. I watched Peaky Blinders Seasons 1 and 2 on Netflix. This was one I had thought that I would continue on with because I really, really loved it. And then, spoiler alert, there is a death at the beginning of Season 3, and the show needed a timeout. It needed a timeout for me. I will pick it up back up eventually. I just, every time I thought to go back and like watch the next episode, I got really mad about the death that happens. So I don't remember if it was the first episode or the second episode of Season 3, but I watched through that, but I didn't finish Season 3. But I think there is I think the final season is coming out in 2022, so maybe I'll pick it back up and watch it in time to watch the last season. Maybe, if I can get over my anger. Watched Heartland Seasons 12 and 13 on Netflix. This is a show that I started watching in college on some, like, very bad quality bootleg website. And I just really enjoy it. I think, like, it's got good characters, and I don't know. I really like it. I'm hesitant for what's happening now because I think US Netflix is, like, maybe a season or 2 behind, because it airs in Canada. And I think we're behind, and I've seen some spoilers, but I don't know if they're accurate spoilers, so I don't know. I'm nervous about one of the characters. Next was called Marvel Behind the Mask on Disney+. This was kind of just like a little documentary on Marvel about them, like, creating certain characters and always making sure to have not just like the superhero persona, but the behind the mask, the real person story to like balance it out that there was a superhero, but it was also like a human story, and I really liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. To All the Boys Always and Forever on Netflix. This is such a good adaptation series. I really loved this one. Really liked Lara Jean and Peter's relationship going from kind of a high school sweetheart to a how do we deal with this in real life situation. I really liked Lara Jean and Jen's friendship dynamic that was going on in this one. Yeah, I really love these movies. I have rewatched them, I think, several times since this third one came out. Next was Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. This one was on Netflix. This one was kind of creepy. It was a documentary about a missing girl at this, or like lots of weird, creepy things that had happened at this one hotel in, I think it was in Los Angeles. It might have been one of the surrounding areas. I don't remember for sure. But I kind of felt like some of those hotel workers that were being interviewed for the documentary maybe knew a little bit more than they were letting on. Next was another documentary on Netflix. It was called Murder Among the Mormons, and this one was wild. So it was about this guy who, I don't remember if he was raised Mormon or if he found the Mormon church as like a teenager, but he was a part of the church, and he started coincidentally finding all of these documents and things that the Mormon church really like held in esteem. And then people started realizing that he was faking it, like faking all of the documents and stuff. And instead of leaving the religion alone, like going about his business, he decided he was going to bomb like prominent members of the church. I think it was like one of them was like a higher up, but he put it in their mailbox and the wife found it. And then like the only reason he got caught was because one of the bombs detonated early and it was still in like the trunk of his car. And it was crazy. Like, he started talking about, I don't remember if it was him that necessarily said this, but somebody in the documentary mentioned that he had started to kind of fall out of faith with what the Mormon church believes. And so he wanted to like prove that they were fake. So he created all these fake documents that they believed in. And like, if you don't like a religion, just leave it alone. Like, you don't, like, that's too much and it's unnecessary, and just leave it alone. Next was The Case Against Anon Saeed on Hbo Max. I probably really butchered that name. It's been a while since I watched this to remember how they pronounced it. I saw Bailey Sarian talk about this one. I think she was on Instagram talking about it. This was a very, most documentaries are, but this was a very one-sided documentary, and I don't know that they ever gave me enough proof that it wasn't him. This one was a true crime documentary. He was accused of, he was accused of killing a classmate. I believe it was either a girlfriend or an ex-girlfriend. But yeah, like, I don't know that they I don't know if they ever gave me enough doubt. Another documentary on HBO Max was Allen versus Farrow. This one was about Mia Farrow and the sexual assault that she had to deal with as a child from Woody Allen, who was her like adopted father. It had a lot to do of how no one believed her, and how because he was famous, it kind of just like, he wouldn't do that, and you're making this up. And then like later on, her really sticking with that story of, this is what happened to me, he's the one who did it. And finally people started to believe her, and she's such a strong woman. Like, even just like during the interviews, you could tell. Next up was a comedy special on Netflix, Nate Bargatze, Greatest Average American. This one's pretty funny. I like him because he's so, like, deadpan when he delivers his jokes, and yeah, I don't remember, like, any specific jokes, but I remember, like, this was filmed pretty recently, so it was during the pandemic, and so it's outside, and there's a bunch of tables, like, spread out everywhere, and I believe it was around Los Angeles, or in the Los Angeles area, and so he keeps having this, like, helicopter that flies over, and he keeps, like, making jokes about it, and that's really all I remember from it, but I did really like it at the time. I watched the last Blockbuster on Netflix. This one was super cool. It was a little bit about the daily routine of the last Blockbuster store to be open, and how the woman who runs it keeps it open, and her deal with Blockbuster, or whoever owns Blockbuster now. And just like all of the people who like travel to that I think it's in Oregon. Or Washington. Somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. But like all the people who travel there for just the nostalgia of it, I thought it was really good. And I should have watched that one after I watched the next one, because I remember I watched these in the same day. But the next one was Operation Varsity Blues, the college admission scandal. Like, I knew that it would make me angry just because of the subject matter, but the part that made me, like, it made me even more angry than just the whole paying to get your kid into college. The part that made me so angry was that they would make these kids, like, study and study and study and then go take a test. And then they wouldn't even, like, wait to find out if the kid, like, the kid could have done great on the test. But they would hire this adult man to go take the test, like, after the kids had already taken it. And I was like, you're not even, like, giving them a shot. Like, why do you think your kids are so stupid? Like, anyway, see, this. I'm so angry at this still. And it's just, the whole thing makes me angry in general. But that testing thing, I was just like, you're not even giving them a chance. Like, yeah. And then Godzilla vs. Kong came out on HBO Max, and this was so boring. I did not like this at all. I wrote in my little, I tried to, like, make, like, notes about the stuff that I watched so I could remember. I didn't think anything worth watching happened in this. They just wanted to CGI Godzilla and Kong fighting, and that was pretty much what it was. Next was back to HBO Max documentary John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. This is a creepy as hell true crime story. It also was really creepy because he was in the documentary. I think it was filmed back kind of like right after he went to prison, and yeah. Tournament of Champions Season 1 and 2 on the Food Network. This is hosted by Guy Fieri, and he gets a bunch of the, like, Food Network chefs to come in, and basically they have, like, a tournament bracket and pit against each other, and then 3, like, more famous food chefs, 3 kind of more famous food critics and chefs come in, and they don't know who has cooked what, and they do, like, a blind judging. We saw Food Network we saw season 1 on Food Network one day over the weekend, and Mom and I sat there and watched it all, and then, like, that next week was when season 2 started, so we watched that as it came out. Netflix put up Big Time Rush, the series, and I watched season 1, and it was super nostalgic, and I love boy bands, but some of the jokes weren't, like, they didn't hold up over time, and it was kind of cringy. So I stopped at season 1, and I thought that better to just keep that nostalgia in my head from back when I watched it the first time. Next was I'll Be Gone in the Dark on HBO Max. This was another true crime documentary. This one was on the search for the Golden State Killer, and how much work Michelle McNamara put into it before she ultimately passed away, and just kind of the drive from her family and friends to continue her work and get the book. This documentary is based on a book, which I don't own it. I borrowed it from a friend, but I haven't read it yet. But just the drive of her family and friends to get the book out there. At the Heart of Gold, Inside the USA Gymnastics Scandal by HBO Max. This one is the documentary, or a documentary about the sexual assault case in USA Gymnastics. I felt like this one interviewed a lot more non-elite gymnastics that normally get I don't want to say the spotlight, because it's not, more of the focus, I guess, would be the word. Ooh, I Love You Now Die on HBO Max. I'm unsure how I feel about this one. Okay, so this one is the case where the girl's boyfriend commits suicide, but, like, he stops. He's trying to, like, carbon monoxide poison himself, or whatever it's called. He, like, stops and gets out of the car, and then she tells him to get back in. which is definitely unethical, but I don't know that it's illegal per se. So I don't know how I feel about this one. I definitely feel like she should be punished. I don't know that she should have been, I don't know what exactly she was charged with. I don't remember. But I think this is one of those things where you really have to be careful about what you charge somebody with. Because, like, does it fall under that? I watched the Friends reunion on HBO Max. I thought this was, like, I enjoyed this. I didn't watch Friends until a couple of years ago when it got put on Netflix. So I don't have all of the nostalgia for it. But, like, it's alright. And the reunion was alright. I watched The Masked Singer. I didn't do very well. And they've since, like, just this week, I think, ended another season, and I didn't watch hardly any of that new season, so maybe I'm kind of over The Masked Singer. Raya and the Last Dragon on Disney Plus. We watched this one weekend when we had my niece with us, and this was super good. I really enjoyed this. I thought it had a good story. Excuse me. I thought it had a good story, and I really enjoyed the characters. In the Heights came out on HBO Max. I didn't really know what to expect from this one. I knew it was a Lin-Manuel Miranda musical, but I had never seen, like, I didn't know what the storyline to it was. I didn't know the music. It was alright. Some of it seemed really out of place, and then I think on an article that I read after, like a review article that I read afterwards, said that a lot of the stuff from the stage show was cut out for the movie. So I'm wondering if the stuff that didn't really make sense to me was because they cut out, like, context. Another one I watched with my niece was Luca on Disney Plus. I really enjoyed this one too. The like setting of Italy, like the background setting was super pretty. I really enjoyed the like animation style that they went with for it. I thought it really matched up. I thought it really matched up perfectly. Lucifer Season 5 Part 2 on Netflix. I thought that this was the end, but it ended on a cliffhanger, and that made me a little confused. I thought Season 5 Part 2 was the end. I didn't realize there was going to be a Season 6. Oh, and then the Olympics came on, and I always watch the Olympics. I'm the person who, I watch everything. Anything that says it's got the Olympics competition, I'm gonna watch it. I would go to work. I'd get home about 6 o'clock. I would turn on my TV stream, the Roku on my TV, and I would stream on the Peacock app whatever they were playing. From 7 until about 10 would be the prime time. We'd watch that on the big TV with the satellite, and then I'd come back in my room and turn on the Peacock app again, and I would watch whatever was on until I would go to bed. When I woke up in the morning, I would watch the Peacock app until I left for work. I'm obsessed. I watch everything. Mom and I went to the theater. First time we've been to the theater. I don't even think we went before the pandemic, really hit in 2020. I think this is the first time we've been to the theater since 2019. We saw Jungle Cruise, which I loved. I love the ride at Disney World and at Disney. I did it when I went to Disneyland the one time. But the movie was so good. I really thought The Rock and Emily Blunt had a really good chemistry. And it was like The Mummy, Indiana Jones, and the Jokes of the Jungle Cruise ride all mixed in, and it was great. I watched Loki on Disney Plus, and I thought this one was super boring. I don't understand why this one is going to get a second season. I feel like there are other Marvel shows that they could do season 2 for, but I didn't like Loki. I thought it was boring. I watched Space Jam on HBO Max. I don't remember what the subtitle to it was, but this is the LeBron James one. This was a choice that was made. It was a choice that was made. I don't understand why. It didn't it didn't have the charm of the original, and I don't know why LeBron James would agree to do a movie that made him look like a terrible father. But that's what happened. Behind the Attraction on Disney Plus. This one was pretty interesting as somebody who is a big Disney park fan. Each episode was about a different attraction and kind of the Imagineering process, and some of them were ones where they had to create new ride systems and how they did that, and I just thought it was pretty interesting. Ted Lasso Season 1, it was on Apple TV Plus, whatever it's called. Ted Lasso is so good, y'all. It's so wholesome. But I feel like sometimes when you get to like this certain level of wholesome, it gets kind of like boring. But Ted Lasso is not boring. Ted Lasso is amazing. Ted Lasso is great. All of the characters I love. Season 2 we'll get to in a minute though. I went through each episode back to back. I watched all of season 1 in a day. It was so good. Count Me In on Netflix. This was a documentary about drummers and how who they saw that started them on their journey, and yeah, it was really cool. I love drums. I love the drums. Usually, if a song has a good drum beat, it's pretty up there on my list of favorites. It was also really cool to see because it had a bunch of different drummers that it interviewed, obviously, and they all kind of had similar stories to how they started, but it was different as to who they looked up to, who they first saw doing it, and I thought that was pretty cool. Selena the Series Part 2 on Netflix. I didn't like this one as much as Season 1. I felt like in Season 1 they really brought out the stories of the other people in her life, and then this one I don't know if maybe they didn't weren't renewed for another season or whatever, but this one was really rushed with the end of her life. I didn't appreciate that it pushed the other people in her life to the back burner when it made me care about them so much in Season 1. I watched LuLaRich on Amazon Prime. This was a documentary on the LuLaRoe pyramid scheme, MLM, scandal, whatever you want to call it, which has led me down a whole rabbit hole of anti-MLM YouTube. But this was nuts. I really enjoyed in LuLaRich though that they had the founders of LuLaRoe in the documentary, and they would ask them a question and they would answer it, and then it would immediately switch to court proceeding, or what's it called, a deposition, where they said the exact opposite, or it would do them or it would cut to them talking to a consultant and it would be the exact opposite. I really liked when they would do that. And then Lucifer Season 6 came out on Netflix, and I watched it, and this season had me so worried. I did not know how things were going to work out to get that happily ever after. But without spoiling too much in case you want to see it and haven't, I really loved the way that they ended this series. I thought that it made the Chloe and Lucifer romance more of an epic romance. And even though they had me worried, I really, really enjoyed it. I watched If I Leave Here Tomorrow, a film about Leonard Skinner on Netflix. I don't know why. It popped up as a recommended thing. I don't know if maybe they had just added it. It was from a few years ago though. I think it said 2017 or 2018 that it was released. I thought this one was pretty good. It had kind of the whole timeline of the band, of them forming and meeting and forming the band, and kind of the rise of the band together, and then the plane crash that killed some of the members, and then the other ones kind of having to deal with the survivor's guilt and all of that kind of stuff. Um, Oh, I put in my notes that I did appreciate that they talked about the band's use of the Confederate flag and how they didn't mean it as a symbol of hate because they don't hate anybody. And they also acknowledged that it was very naive of them to think that it stood for just being proud to be Southern, which I really, like I said, I appreciated that they put that in there. But yeah, I really enjoy this. I guess I didn't know much about the story of Leonard Skinner because that happened way before I was born, basically. So, yeah. Monsters Inside the 24 Faces of Billy Milligan was a documentary on Netflix. This one was very interesting. It was about the Ohio State campus rape. I don't remember how many women. It was quite a few in the 70s, and then they ended up finding him, but he has multiple personalities, and so he was found, like, in court, he was, what does it say? He was found innocent by insanity, but they put him in a mental institution, which he eventually runs away from. Oh yeah, one thing, I thought that it was pretty interesting, the whole, like, multiple personality aspect of it. I thought it was interesting. But one thing I didn't quite understand was his family and friends who, like, helped him escape, helped him hide because he's supposed to be at this mental institution getting help. They would, like, help him hide from, I guess was the police, because technically there was a warrant for his arrest. They would be like, oh, well, the poor victims, and we don't really use his illness as an excuse for what happened. And we think that, well, but, like, that's what you were doing. By helping him not get the help that he needed. Like, maybe that mental institution was bad. Maybe he needed to be at a different one. But you're just out helping him be loose when you know that somebody in there is capable of this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think his friends and family really had, like, his best interests. But I watched Walker Season 1 on HBO Max. This is the new Walker, Texas Ranger with Jared Padalecki in it. I thought this one was pretty good. It actually surprised me. I expected it to be kind of cheesy, but I really enjoyed it. I liked that it had a lot to do with his family and kind of their grief process. I did not appreciate that there was a cliffhanger at the end of the season, but now I gotta watch Season 2. I don't think it's on yet. It may be on. I haven't really looked into it yet. The Way Down, God, Greed, and the Cult of Gwen Shamblin on HBO Max. This one was wild. Wild. So it's about this woman, Gwen Shamblin, who started a church. We're going to put that in quotations. And it was basically like faith-based weight loss. And one of the things that I remember it saying was, like, when you're hungry, you should, please don't follow this advice. Please don't follow this. This was nuts and ridiculous, and please do not take this as medical advice because it is not. But one of the things that she said was, like, when you're hungry, go read your Bible instead of eating because God would rather you focus on him than focus on your hunger. Please don't do that. That is not good at all. Please don't. And basically the only reason that anybody ever really knew anything about the, like, darker side of this woman and her, what she called a church, was because of a child abuse situation that led to death. Like, the child died from being, like, locked in a, I don't remember if it was locked in a room or locked in a cupboard where, like, no food and no water, and like had gone in there after getting beaten by his parents because he was a toddler and couldn't like stop crying, which is like, it's a toddler. It's a toddler. Anyway, I hated this one. There was, I want to say he was a teenager, but he may have been an early 20s man who spoke about how his parents had followed her teachings and that it had led him to several times try to commit suicide. And there were women who were talking about how they were forced to stay in cheating, abusive marriages. And like, as somebody who had a bad experience with a religious group, it's wild to me that that's how this could have turned out had I stayed in that group. And so, yeah, I hated this. But it was also like, you need to bring these things out so that if any other person is in a situation like this, they know that it's not okay. Bad Sport on Netflix. This was documentary episodes on different sports scandals. I wrote down which ones they were, but like, I don't feel like, some of them were pretty interesting. Some of them really pissed me off. It was a whole thing. Ted Lasso Season 2 was on Apple. I wrote Apple Plus TV, but I don't know if Apple TV Plus, whatever it is. I really enjoyed this season. It kind of made some of the characters feel a little bit more real as opposed to characters. It gave some of my faves some struggles. I will not appreciate it if Roy and Keely break up. I will not appreciate it. And Nate, who wasn't really my favorite, but like, I didn't have a problem with him, but we're gonna have some problems now. Tom Parker, Inside My Head. I watched this on YouTube. I don't know what channel it aired on originally in the UK. Tom Parker is from The Wanted. It's one of my favorite bands from college. And I don't remember when it was. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And so it was really good to see somebody that I'm a fan of not only overcome their own struggles, but he, like, while going through treatment, put together this whole benefit show to, like, raise money for research into whatever kind of brain tumor it is. I don't recall exactly, but it made me proud to be a fan. The Babysitter's Club Season 2 was on Netflix. I liked this season, but something about it just seemed off from the first one. I don't really know what it was, but like, it was alright, but it wasn't like great like the first season was. The Muppets Haunted Mansion on Disney Plus. This was so freaking cute. The Muppets are so cute. And then Haunted Mansion is my favorite ride from Disney World. So I really liked that, like, there is a Haunted Mansion movie. But I liked that the Muppets Haunted Mansion had more like the actual like ride storyline. What Happened Brittany Murphy was a documentary on HBO Max. This one was pretty interesting. I remember it being on the news when Brittany Murphy passed away, but I didn't know any of the other stuff that was going on, like, surrounding that. I put that overall the documentary seemed unfinished to me. Like, I watched the 2 episodes and then I went to go finish it, and that was all there was the 2 episodes. So I don't know. I think I just expected more out of it, or I thought that there was more to the story and there wasn't in the documentary. Roswell, New Mexico Season 3 is on Netflix. It was another solid season of this show. I love that there's so many similarities to the original show, but I feel like they're getting the opportunity to kind of flesh out the characters and the storyline more in this new remake. Love Hard on Netflix. This was the first of the new Christmas movies I watched this year, and like, it was pretty good. I don't think I had seen Nina Dobrev in any like truly comedic roles like this one was, but I thought she did a great job. Didn't I already say? Oh, Behind the Attraction on Disney Plus again. I already said it, but they added more episodes about more rides, so I watched those. Cruella on Disney Plus. This one actually surprised me with how good it was. I didn't know how they would make me like I didn't know how they would make me like Cruella de Vil, but they really did. I thought it was pretty good. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings was on Disney Plus. This was another Marvel movie, and I thought this one was really good. There are no bad Marvel movies as far as of the ones I've seen. There have been no bad Marvel movies. I am interested to wait and see how it kind of ties into the next phase of the MCU, but it was pretty good. And then I wasted my time and I watched Tiger King Part 2 on Netflix, and this was so unnecessary. I felt like this was just people who, like, probably said no to the original Tiger King and then saw, like, how big it got, and so they were like, well, now we have stuff to add, but they didn't really have stuff to add. Like, it was totally pointless, this whole thing. I watched Tick Tick Boom on Netflix. This was so good. I became a fan of Rent the musical when it had its movie adaptation. And so I had seen a couple of things from, like, the behind the scenes of the movie where they had talked about Jonathan Larson and creating it for Broadway and all of that kind of stuff, because a lot of that cast was the original Broadway cast. But this one was written by Jonathan Larson about his process, like, from even before Rent. And so I really liked seeing the like tidbits of stuff that you could tell was, like, connected to storylines that he would eventually put into Rent. The end of my notes. Also, I cried. The Princess Switch 3 on Netflix. This is exactly what I wanted it to be. I have nothing else written down. Escape from a House of Horrors on Hulu. This was I think it was a 2020 episode about the Turpin family and the, like, I don't even know, like, it's not even child abuse because they were doing it to their adult children too. But it was a lot. There were a lot of details. I remember kind of when the story broke, I remember them talking about, I think it's like 13 children that this couple had and how much they were abused. But this interview actually had two of the older sisters. One of the ones is the one that escaped the house and ended calling 911. And it was like, I cried during this too. Just when they were talking about their life now, and there were some messed up things about their life now, about some money that was raised, but that's a whole different story. But I'm really, like, I don't know them, but I'm proud of them for being able to overcome that. So, Mom and I went back to the theater at Thanksgiving, and we saw Encanto. I feel, oof. This one was pretty good. I really enjoyed the storyline of it. Some of the songs kind of took me out of it. They were a little bit too much Lin-Manuel Miranda-esque for me. I feel like 98% of his songs all sound the same. But yeah, I really enjoyed the storyline of it. I really enjoyed the family story, the characters, the like animation was beautiful. It was the songs. Some of the songs, not even all of the songs. Some of the songs were just not it for me. The Great British Bake Off was on Netflix. Every Friday morning, I would sit there at work with my headphone in and I would watch Bake Off. And for unknown reasons, I love Bake Off, even when it makes me so angry, like it did this season. And then I watched The Beatles Get Back on Disney Plus. This was super interesting. There was 3 episodes, but they were both they were all over like 2 hours long-ish. I don't know that I would recommend it unless you're a huge fan of the Beatles or a huge fan of, like, the process of music, because there was a lot of them just kind of sitting around working out how songs should sound. But yeah, this was also kind of towards the end of the Beatles as a group. So it was really interesting to see kind of the dynamic of them going into what was going to be a live show, and then it was going to be a live record, and then it was just, yeah, it was a whole process. And that's basically all I have right now. Currently I am watching Drive to Survive on Netflix. It says a documentary series about F1 racing, thanks to a girl that I follow on Twitter who watched F1 races, and the like finale was last weekend, and it was nuts, and I was like following her tweets, trying to figure out what was going on. I still don't quite understand it. But then I saw somebody in her comments talking about a Netflix show, and so I started watching it. And that's currently what I'm watching. That and Christmas movies. But most of the Christmas movies that I've been watching are ones that I've already seen. I haven't really watched anything new. So that's what I watched this year. We're at 47 minutes. We literally just hit 47 minutes recording. So I don't know how much I'll be able to cut out of this. So like, we're not going to do this long of a video again. We're not going to save it all next year of what I'm watching. We're gonna cut it down, do it at least in the summer and in the winter, maybe even quarterly. But yeah, we're not gonna do this again. This is so long. I'm tired of talking. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.